world. I got cut off on the other video, so I'm trying again. Technology, you see, good and bad. Mostly bad, I think, but anyway. This is not a natural world we live in. This is not a real world we live in. It is ruled by technology 100%, is now, always has been. The only difference is now is that we see some of the technology. We see some of the technology, a minute bit of the technology, okay? We are given it, we use it, we're addicted to it, it controls our life. We're aware of that. It's invisible. Technology is usually invisible. The world has always been ruled by technology. It is a system. It is a technology system. Always has been, but it is an organic world that we were meant to live in, and there is organic, natural stuff around us. And we, as spiritual human beings, are meant to be incorporated into the natural world, not the technological world. That is artificial, that is alien to us, literally alien to us. It is an alien technology, okay? Take that whichever way you want it, but it really means it's not compatible with us. We are spiritual human beings in a physical body, in a natural type of body, and I think most people know that. It has technological points to it, but it's natural. I'm not a scientist, I don't know, I'm an ignorant human being, I've only become aware of this recently, okay? So, the natural world is still there, and as you can see, the technology is destroying it, and that's another thing. But that also destroys us, because we are meant to be, I think, with nature and are compatible with that, because we're spiritual beings, we're not technological beings. The technology rules the earth, and the planet has always been a system that is controlled by technology. In other words, the natural world is taken over by the technological system. Now, who and what operates that, I'm not going to go into, because even I can only get to a certain point. But even if you just want to say it's human beings the top human beings who took over everything, but basically the technology and the humans, even if you want to say that, even though they are less human than us, because once you become unempathetic, you do not care for, you do not value life, which is like the people that we have that controls the world. They do not value life at all. They do not value anything. They pretend to, because they know that we do, and that's the trick. So they play into that and all this earth stuff and all the rest of it, but they're not interested in that at all, because if they were interested in that, they wouldn't have an internet covering the whole globe, would they? Common sense, people. You know, you don't have to be smart to figure that out. I'm not smart. I figured that out. You know, it's just common sense, really. How can you claim to care about the planet when you cover the planet in technology? Technology is not natural. Technology is alien to nature. Common sense. Where's common sense? You don't have to be smart. A kid could probably figure that out, but not these days, because the kids also, we're all technologically controlled, because the technology is into our thinking now, and the system is technology. So we are only partly aware of what is happening, you know, some more than others, but we're all controlled by it. We are all mind controlled. I'm telling you this now, but I know that I'm mind controlled. The only difference between me and maybe someone else is that it's the degree. I might be slightly less mind controlled at the present time than someone else, that's all. But we all are, just depends on the degree. If you're totally mind controlled, you know, you will not even remotely get what I'm saying, and you won't even care anyway. You know, you won't care. You know, so that's the thing. Now, I've got to try to keep on track here, because I'm just a little human being that is not particularly interested in doing this, because it's at risk to myself and no one listens, and it's stressful, but it gets it off my chest. That's the only reason I'm speaking into this artificial technological microphone, is because it's a way of getting it out, because it's not like, because I cannot connect anymore with all the rest of humanity. I'll get back to what I've said before. The basics of being human being on this earth is that we are spiritual beings in a physical body, in a physically, technically controlled environment that is totally controlled in every way. It's a technically controlled environment in every way. The technology controls the human being. The human beings operate in the system and operate for the system, whether they know it or not. Doesn't matter if you're a top scientist, if you're a leader, if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, if you're a singer, if you're an actor, if you're a, digging a ditch, an architect, doesn't matter what you're doing, you are operating for the system, in the system. It can't be avoided, because this is the way this world is set up. It's a setup. It's all like, it's already planned. Everything is controlled. Everything is maneuvered. Everything is monitored. Everything is maneuvered, shall we say. But the secret of it all, the secret that is kept from us, is that we, as spiritual human beings, are operating and controlled by a technological system. We are controlled by what is around us, and we think according to what is around us. But we are unaware that our natural thinking creates physical reality, and that we are all connected. Not by the internet, that is an artificial connection, that is technology. That is what we are given and told is the way to connect. In reality, we are spiritual beings in a physical body. We are all connected spiritually, and our thought creates physical reality. But we do not know we are creating physical reality with our thinking. This is what has been kept from us, that we have not developed it ourselves. We're unaware of it. I know I have been, and even now I'm powerless to operate it properly, because the world is not set up in a natural way to where I'm naturally connected to every other human being, to where we are aware that together we are creating a physical reality. And our thoughts and our feelings do this. So if you have not got control of your thoughts and feelings, and you do not know that every time you get angry you can create something bad, you're not going to stop being angry and that bad thing happening. You see what I'm trying to say? It's bizarre, I know, for people to understand this. But maybe if you think back like I did over your life and see all the bad things that have happened, and start to see the setup. See, I know it for a fact, because the system has fell down on me, you see. But most people, it hasn't fell down. Most people think they're free. And, they're free to operate within the system. That is true. But that is not freedom, because it's not true freedom for a spiritual human being. It's freedom to operate in a technologically controlled, manipulated, set up system. So how much freedom is that? That's like being in a small prison where you're allowed to go out into the yard. That's like going overseas or something. And then you have to do it all their way. You have to go on the aeroplane, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to obey the rules of customs, you have to obey the rules of the road, everything is a system and a setup. Think about it. It's not a free world at all. It's a bit like in this world, and I wrote this down the other day because it come to me, because it's like in this world, if you don't obey the rules of the world, you go to a small prison, a jail. And you're aware that you went to a jail because there's a bigger world and you go into a smaller thing. But everyone is in a prison, because the big world is a prison too. It's a setup. As long as you obey the rules, like when you're in jail, you have to obey the rules. If you're sent to jail, you have to obey the rules. But when you come out of jail, you also have to obey the rules. You can't do what you like. You're in the system. You're in a setup. You think you've got more freedom than in the jail because you can wander around a bit further. But it's all rules, all set up, and more so, every day more so. Think about that, people. We know that. And because This is the joke of it, and this is the confusion of it, right? We have the power to create the physical reality with our thinking, and we're all connected, but we don't know that. But the system set up technologically that controls all this does know that. So they have to make us confined to the physical, to where we think that's all there is. And then they put more and more rules into place to where we're more and more trapped here, and to where we're not, although we're creating for them with our thinking, we're not creating for ourselves, we're creating for them, which is why the world is very negative as opposed to a blissful, positive, where everything is good everywhere, if you think about it. Because they control the thinking. We do the thinking that creates the reality, but they've got control of it. You know, the technology, the control system, shall we say. Obviously, it's controlled by human beings at the top, certain human beings at the top, negative human beings. I say negative because there's positive and negative. Because we're spiritual beings, everything is a vibration. This is another thing. So this also works. Because we are spiritual beings, we control everything with our vibration. And this is a scientific fact, even though I'm ignorant and don't know science. But the science is that everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. This is a scientific basic fact, and this is just what I know, and this is what everyone knows. But that really means that that's right. We are spiritual beings, and we create we create a physical reality with our thinking. And that is based on that premise that everything is vibration, frequency, and energy, you see. So our negative vibration and frequency creates a solid reality that will be negative then, you see. Because the powers that be, the control system, will set you up for a negative vibration, you see. And you might say, well, I'm not negative all the time. I don't consider myself a negative person. Well, look, that will depend on who you are, where you are. But the majority of the population will be set up to create a negative vibration. And I would go so far as to say that even some of your very rich and famous people do have their negative moments and their negative aspects too. They just are doing so much better out of this system, because if you have more influence and more ability to keep the vibration low of the average human being, then you're going to be paid more money because you're working better for the system than someone else, you know, because this is a low vibration earth. Now, I'm not saying it should be, I'm saying that's the way it is. And this is because human beings are not aware that they create the reality with their thinking. They are not aware that they're all connected. They are now artificially connected by technology. Technology is artificial. It is alien to the earth. It is alien to the human body. It does not help the human body to access the ability to create clearly. It does not give the human being the ability to realize what I'm saying now. It closes that down to where humans see themselves as material beings only, powerless to create anything, and that there's no such thing as their emotions or their thoughts creating anything. They think internally only that, oh, if I've had a bad day, or if I argue with someone, or if I hurt someone, I'm only affecting that one person. But in reality, it's affecting much more, because you're unaware that your thinking is connected to other human beings, and your thoughts do create reality. It's complicated, I know. It's actually simple, but it's complicated if you think about it, because that really means, that's right, the world is in chaos. And that's why, because everyone is creating something, but they don't know what they're creating, because their thinking and their feelings, they are not consciously doing it. They're living in this negative world where they're set up for negativity and bad stuff. Like I say, it's a setup because everything is controlled. Everything that is pumped into us is via technology mainly, all the information we get. And most of the information we get is negative. They throw in a little bit of positive stuff, but that usually doesn't do us any good. We tend to think mainly, we're still thinking that we do not create anything, and that everything can only be changed by the system. If there's a medical problem, we think only science and medicine can solve it. We don't think that we ourselves have any power to actually control it. But all those companies, all those organisations, all those institutions, every single thing on this earth is all part of the one technologically controlled system. It all operates together. It's all designed to back up one another. There is very little independent human stuff. Now, I know you would probably say, but all these things are operated by humans, and they are. But the humans are operating under the information they're given by scientists, and the scientists are controlled by the technological system, and they also are given false information. You cannot be a great scientist. You know, like what I'm saying now means that I, as an ignorant, not particularly genius human being, and that's the truth. I'm not one of your top level intellects. But if I have got truth, but the scientists who are geniuses have not got truth, are operating under false information, false science even, shall we say. Some of it may appear to be valid for them, but it's backward. It's not giving them the full thing. How can they possibly know the truth? They don't, look, there's a difference between science and truth. There's a difference between intellect and truth. Truth rules. Truth is the truth. Truth is what is the basis. If human beings are spiritual beings that create their physical reality and they're all connected, that is the truth, then science means nothing. It means nothing to you and me, really. It's no good them saying, oh, well, we can do this and that with science. That's technology. That's a different thing. But, you know, if you are the creator, you don't need science. Science is backward. Science can create too, but it's backward by comparison. You see what I'm trying to say? And it's not for us. Technology is for technological beings. Nature is for spiritual beings. Spiritual beings already have, if they can develop it, the ability to know things. So they don't need science. They don't need to be looking that way. That is technology. You know, because if you already know everything, if you know you create, you don't need to know any more than that, because that's almost, dare I say, that if a God-like being created human beings and created those beings in its image, shall we say, then surely those beings are creators too. And that's just from a religious standpoint, but I'm not talking religion here. I am talking, but it can fit religion if you want to look at it that way. But even religions don't do that. They tend to want to bow down to an entity, even though the entity itself is saying, hey, I have created you in my image, and I am a creator. So therefore, that's right, human beings would have to be creators then. Human beings create physical reality with their thinking, but they don't know. That's been deprived from human beings as the years have went by. This, at one point when they first started, they would have half known that, but there was intervention by this technology, by this technological control system. It was a choice. It was a choice, a bit like the Garden of Eden, as I've said before, where there was a choice, but they made the wrong choice. Tempted, that's right, got sidetracked and went further and further away from the truth into more and more physicality delusion. The physicality is an illusion because we do not control it. It is controlled by something else. It's controlled by the technological system that rules this domain, shall we say. It's hard to explain, because you do have to stretch your imagination, but that's another thing that's being denied us, because our imagination shows us the truth, but while we're just in the real physicality and in the logical, technological way of thinking and the information way of thinking that, oh, I get my information, that's the truth. But where does the information come from? How can the information be true if it's coming from the technological system that, you know, is really keeping you here in this control, artificial world? And it's getting more and more that way. You should be able to see it by now, because because you've actually accepted physical technology, whereas in the past it would have been impossible to see, because you would think you were still in the natural world. You would think you were you had some control over it. But surely now you must realise, just look around, it's a fact, it's a reality that technology is ruling your world. The fact that you've accepted it doesn't make any difference. It's ruling your world. You've been tricked again. We've been tricked again. I know I have been. I've been tricked all my life. I admit that. I know it. And I know I've been mind controlled. And I know I still am to some extent. And okay, to laugh at me and say, well, she's fully mind controlled. Look, I understand that, because I would laugh at myself 12 months ago, would laugh at myself. Well, maybe a little bit longer than that, but it's taken me a while to piece it all together. But it's not because I'm particularly, it's not because I'm actually more intellectual, shall we say, than anyone else. I'm not. But it's only because some of the information has come to me. Because don't forget, this is what happens. Once you do open it, once you start to see a few things, even if those things you have not sought, and even if it's no credit, like it's no credit to me that I know this, but once you see some of it, then you will automatically start to see more and more, because that's what happens once you let your mind break from what you're told all the time. And when you start to question things and start to say, hey, yeah, that fits that, that fits that, it is a system, it goes all on. But what I'm trying to say is, just think about it. The whole world is covered in technology right now. The whole world. Everyone knows that. You've accepted it? Yes. This is the trick too. This is what I've now realised. I've thought about this, and you'll agree with me if you think about it. They have to, even this system still operates by certain rules where we have to accept things. But the thing is, the trick is though, is that we do accept things, but we don't know what we're accepting. We don't know when we invite this technology into our world and into our house that it is not ours. We think we're innocent, just like we were innocent. Yeah, you could say innocent in the Garden of Eden. That's another thing, because we were superior beings. But if you're innocent with it and you don't, because if you're a spiritual being, you don't think bad, you see. In our natural state, that I think that was our dilemma, and but that is a good thing. But unfortunately, if you're a good person, a spiritual being, and a demon or a bad person comes into your life, you do have to have some discretion, because if you're a spiritual being, you just think that everyone is like you. Most people think that everyone is pretty much like them, and this is how human beings get tricked, because not all human beings are the same. And we know that as we go through our life, but by then it's too late. And it's the same as the beings, even human or not, that control this technological system. They are not spiritual beings. They can't be, because they operate a negative system. The system is to limit you and to control you. Now, some people might say, well, maybe that's a good thing. That's another thing. See, now humans have got to the point where they think limitation is good. Oh, it's good to restrict my freedom, because if I restrict my freedom, that means like more security, but I'm safer. Yes, I'm a bit more limited, but I'm safer. Safe from what? Your thought creates reality. You don't need anything, really. This is the trick. You don't need security, because if combined, we're spiritual beings, we're all connected, and our thought creates physical reality, why would we need any security? The only security we would need would be from the technological system that is trying to limit our expansion and our freedom. If you really think about that, does that make sense to anyone? You know, if the premise is true, then we are under mass deception, and the technology is part of not security, but control. And where will that control take you? Well, even at a very basic level, if we're spiritual beings in a physical body, we're all connected, and our thought can create physical reality, we're already at a huge disadvantage, aren't we? We're already limited to such an extent, and then we accept the technology which takes over our mind even more. Basically, the system then will take you and everyone else wherever it wants to take them. And, you know, I know if I was a technological person or being that was controlling everything and had control over everything, I'm only going to care about myself and those that are useful to me. And I'm not going to need a real lot of those. And I'm certainly not going to want, you know, a human being to know that they should be creating their world and that it should be natural, not artificial and not technological. And I'm not going to show them that. And they're going to be unaware of it. And, you know, if you look at the world really, every year that has gone by, more technology comes in. And then a few years later, we'll say, oh, what, that, because even human beings, as limited as we are now, sometimes will then say, oh, yeah, but that causes a bit of pollution. That's not so good. Oh, that causes this or that. The planes spew out this, the cars spew out that, everything that we use is artificial and that leads to this or that. I'm saying that is true. And that's where human beings' alarm bells go off. The only trouble is that they don't take it further and say, hey, but this is still all part of a big thing. That is the small thing they want you to focus on when you do find out. They probably preferred if we found out absolutely nothing. But like I say, human beings, even at our mind control limited level, we still are aware of some little things. But as you can see, not much has been done about that. And we're like, you know, a dog chasing our tail or whatever, that basically we're just going round in circles, because that is still limiting. We're chasing our tail while we focus on the things that are already here that do damage the environment, shall we say. Because whatever we do with that doesn't change the fact that we are controlled by the big technology. That they don't even care if we wake up to a few little things, because we can't do anything about it. And even if we could fix up those things, it still would not change the natural world. This natural world is no longer ours because we are not creating it anymore. Because the negative thinking that we are set up to do will create that negative environment, regardless of whether you worry or know about what is environmentally friendly or not. You see, control system. Human beings operate, because they are spiritual beings, they mainly operate in the mind. The physicality is the result of our thinking. You know, it's the result. We actually do control the physical domain. The ones that control unfortunately, we don't control it. It was taken over by negative forces, shall we say, that are technological and incorporate technology into our natural environment. If human beings had stayed on the planet, just supposing the Garden of Eden, okay? Because it's very much like that, even though I'm not trying to be religious. In our original state, I would say that we were natural And we were meant to develop the fact that we could create our physical environment with our thinking, and we were all connected. So we could have anything we wanted, which is very much like the Garden of Eden. It should have been really good, in other words. And we should have been safe. We had nothing to fear because we were all connected and all together, and our thought creates reality. But the serpent came, that's right, the technological serpent control system came and tempted us because we were not quite developed enough, and because we were spiritual beings, we were trusting also, because spiritual beings are not negative, you see. We were not really negative. We've been made negative. In other words, if we had kept them out and rejected that, we would have a wonderful world now. But we didn't do that. We got tricked. And we'd get tricked all the time. All through our history, we have been tricked because we always accept the technological being and its negative thinking, its negative ideas against one another. That is why we have the aeroplane going overhead right now that's 2 inches from my roof, spewing out its evil stuff that is bad to the environment and damaging to me, you know, ages human beings infinitely quicker than what they're meant to, because it's all unnatural, you see. And we know this. We know all these things are not natural. We know that they're not good. And human beings, because we are spiritual beings and because we do have the ability, because our thinking creates reality, some of us actually can self-heal to some extent, even though we're not aware of it. But it is very hard because we shouldn't have to do that. We should be in a natural world where everything we create is just like that and everything's hunky-dory, and we do not need medicine, we do not need security, we do not need any of the items that we have. We should be able, and everything that and because we're spiritual beings, anything that we would create or anything that we would need would naturally be natural and beneficial to us. And we wouldn't also be in a money world, because money would be of no value and we would not need it, and we would not be in that physicality state of mind. This is all the control system. This is all the technological control system that rules this world, that puts us into that state. And that is a fear state too, because then we're paranoid because we have to have the physical, we have to have the money. We don't think that we could have just created it ourselves and had anything we wanted. We think we have to slave for it and work for the control system. You know, you see how, because if you think about it, that, you know, most people would agree with that. Even if they go to work, they're like, oh, well, yeah, I might like my job, but I still have to do it. And I have to work for someone else. And even if you're the boss, you're probably still working for a company, and or even if you're at the top, you're still, you know what I mean? You're still working for that. There's someone above you, even if you can't see someone. You're part of a system, whether you know it or not. And you know, some people are better off than others, so some people think it's okay, but they don't know that they're still limited. They could have much more. And anyway, I'm saying that, yeah, back originally, you know, we would have known all this. So we would automatically know that it would not be good to create some things, and we wouldn't think of creating them, because it's the technological system that implants the ideas, the technical ideas, into our head. As spiritual beings, we would only create naturally. But because we don't know that and we've lost that, we now create with technology, and we create technical things to help us in our life. We don't create natural things or free things. We create everything that is part of the system, everything that has to be bought with money, everything has to be paid for, everything has to be technical, everything we use. We don't know that there are natural alternatives, even free natural alternatives, and that we can create them because our thought, all connected, creates reality. So it's a mass mind and physical deception that we are now in, that we're trapped in. And we have unconsciously and even consciously trapped ourselves, because I know myself, I'm unaware of this. I've been unaware of this most of my life. So you can't get yourself out of a prison that you don't know you're in. If you think that this earth is a free domain that you have full power and control over, but it's really controlling you, you can never get out of it, because you have to accept that you are a prisoner. You have to accept that you're a victim. You have to accept that you are under mind control, mass mind control, by everything that is around you, whether it be, even if you're innocently watching a TV program, that is controlling your mind. It is influencing you. It is making you think a certain way, not consciously most of the time, subconsciously. So, because don't forget, as I've said before, and this just occurred to me recently, I do not know what my subconscious is thinking right this very moment. I only know what I'm consciously doing now, and even that is very easily distracted by this physical world. You know, that plane goes overhead right now. It distracts my mode of thinking. That is not accidental. You know, you might say, of course it is. The planes go and go. No, it is all a setup. To me, it appears to be accidental. Of course it does, and even I still find it hard to believe. But no, it's a video game setup. This whole planet, this whole world. You know, and we are in it, and we are powerless. We think we are, but we actually should not be. But we do not know that we help to create this by our positive or negative thinking, and our thinking unconsciously as well as consciously. And we do not even know what we are thinking subconsciously, because that part of our mind has been cut off from us. And even science would tell you that. So that's not, you know, even our backward science. And I say backward because they don't know too much. And they also operate under limitation. So a genius even can only go so far if he's operating under an untruth, under false information. You know, if a scientist doesn't know, you know, really how things fully function, but only knows limited of how something limited functions. And, you know, that's how you've seen, we all know that even science has made a kind of progression down through the centuries. Well, I wouldn't say progression, but it's changed and given new information, you know, but that is still like only what the system gives them, what the system feeds them, because it is a control system. So even they will only get what the system wants them to receive. So if they make a new discovery, that will only be what the system wants them to make at a given time, wants them to go in that direction. It may appear to be very good for mankind at that time, but that will only be if the system wants that to happen. And as it wants to keep this system going, it will only allow a certain amount of freedom, because it can't give full freedom, because then the system has to fall down. Because if humans had full control over themselves in their own mind, and were the sole creators like they are meant to be, then they would have no need of the control system. They would have no need of any system. They would be the creators, and they are the creators. And so all that is taking place would seem a joke to them. They would not need it. They would create the world that is natural and beneficial to them, not the artificial world that is beneficial to the control system. You know what I mean? Because if I'm a technical, let's put it this way, supposing I'm a technical entity, a technical control being, right? Just put it that way. And someone else is a natural human being. You know, I do not want that natural human being to know that they are a natural human being, that they are working for me, and that their thought is creating the reality that I want. You know, I do not want that system to ever break down, because that is my system. It's not theirs. I'm technical, they're natural. It's not beneficial to them as a natural spiritual being, but it's beneficial to me as a technical, artificial being, you know, and I feed off them. They work for me. They are the spiritual being that should be creating, and they are physically slaving for my technology, because technology is the opposite to spiritual. It is it's very much into the physicality. I'm trying to explain it even though I'm not fully understanding it myself, but it's a different thing altogether. It's the technical being cannot create authentically or naturally. He can only manipulate the creator to create, if you follow me. In other words, the technical being can only manipulate the natural spiritual human being to create for him. He cannot do that on his own because technical is anti-creativity. A technical being cannot create. A technical being can only manipulate, can only use and direct. It uses intellect, not creativity, not spiritual thinking, not authentic really. But if you were really advanced intellectually technical being and very, very, very high on the intellect, like genius at a technical level, then you can vastly manipulate the spiritual, natural human being, you know, with your technology, because you know everything about that human being. You know more about that human being. That human being, that spiritual human being, like myself and every other human being on the planet, knows nothing about themselves. That technical being has used its technology to read your mind, to know everything about your brain and your mind. So it knows your every thinking, and so it can manipulate your thinking. You see what I'm saying? And if you think about it, even in the world we die today, is not your technology controlling your thinking, manipulating, getting into your mind? Do you not even give your thoughts over, even at a computer level, to the computer? I'm saying the technology behind the scenes is much vaster to where, yes, you're thinking, but you are now actually consenting to mind control. You are actually consenting to invasion of your mind. You're actually saying, yes, I like computers, I like all this technology. I'm quite happy to fiddle around on the thing and give my thoughts and my feelings on it. So you're actually saying yes to mind control, to invasion of your mind. And think about that. How much power would you give to another individual even, especially in today's world? Now, this is going to get complicated. It is complicated. It's confusing even me. But you just think about it this way, right? If I'm in a relationship, right, and I've said this before, and I'm in love with someone, right, and I give my love and all my thoughts and all my energy and everything over to that person says they love me, but in reality they don't. They just want to use me, manipulate me, you know, just get what they can out of me. May not even like me, may be jealous of me, might actually dislike me. Then, you know, what position have I put myself in? You see? I've given my thoughts, my feelings, my power, everything over to that person. This is the same thing, you know. So you're putting yourself in a takeover position, you see. And this is what is happening, but we're now doing it consciously. We're doing it consciously because as we have been, because we are spiritual beings, we are innocent, and we can't believe the dark forces, dark technological control system rules this world, and that they do not have our best interest at heart. Even though we look around the world and we say, hey, gee, everything isn't great, and it never has been, we still don't wake up to it. Why does it keep going on? Because it's always been the same, except that now we've let it get much, much worse. This is the worst that humans have ever been at. That's how I see it. And that is a fact if you look around, because the technology was always there, but it was behind the scenes. And we still had some ability to say yes or no, or to make some things. And we always were able to bounce back at least a little bit. Even after we fought one another in wars and battles and things, there was still some of us left, and then we would breed again and try to start again. See, humans want to be spiritual beings. They want to be what they really are, but they're so deceived they can't. They get tricked. Human beings don't want to fight one another, really. Human beings don't want to feel isolated. Human beings don't want to feel that they are nothing. Human beings don't want to feel that they are just limitless physical beings. Human beings don't want to compete with one another and think that one person is better than another. That's also part of the system, where some people seem to be so much better, so we feel small. You know, because in reality, all human beings can create reality with their thinking, and they're all connected, really. So most human beings are very much feel that they are not very good in this world. Their egos and things are pushed down. But then other people overcompensate with the ego of trying to get into this world and make a lot of money and get to be rich and famous, so they overcompensate. Also, they might have abilities, so they want to express those, and that's how they get trapped into the celebrity system, shall we say, because if I can sing and I want to sing to people and that's my thing, it would be very easy for me to do anything to get there. I'd have to. I would want to do that. I'm not going to say, hey, I'm not going to sing ever if I have that opportunity, just because it will limit my spiritual awareness, shall we say, or make me have to do things that are anti-spiritual. I might even delude myself and say, well, look, I have to do some bad stuff to be able to do the good stuff that I want to do. Automatically, you went against your spiritual nature, but like everything in this world, we're told, oh, well, sometimes you have to do something bad to create something better. That's what they tell us. You have to go to war and kill people in order to create a better world. There's no common sense to that, really. Any normal spiritual being, even at their lowest level, would know that. But because we are so programmed, so mind controlled, we believe it. Because they show us, they say, oh, those people are doing terrible, bad things, so we have to kill them. You see, but they don't tell you that they have set up those people to do those bad things, that they are the same as you and me, and if we were there, we would be set up the same way and we would do the same bad things, because every human being is controlled and set up, because they know what you're thinking. If they know your weaknesses, and they can know your mind, because technologically they're much more advanced around this in the scenes. We should know these things at a spiritual level if we were left alone, but we're not. So we're actually downgraded while they're upgraded. The technology is upgraded. The beings that control everything, human or not, they have advanced technology. They have advanced their technology. We as humans, as spiritual beings, have not advanced our spirituality. We have let the technological control system downgrade our spiritual abilities to where we don't think we have them, to where we can't use them, and to where the world is controlled by the technology that they want, because the technology controls our mind, which is our ability. Our creative ability is our mind. We are giving our mind and our creativity and our thinking over to the technology, and that controls us. So we have no power, we have no ability to create for ourselves or to create the world that we want and need. I emphasize need. Not just a matter of wanting. It's not a matter of saying, oh, well, I would want to have some nice clothes. I would want to have a nice mansion. I would, even if you like nature, like me, because that is essential, I would want to live out in the country. What I'm saying is that this is taken from us. See, my mind was just invaded by mine just then. My distraction with the plane going over the system took my mind thinking from me. so that I lost my train of thought to tell you the truth. You see, this is how it works. We are not in our natural state to where we can create the reality that we want, and I emphasize need, because we need to have a certain environment to develop and to expand our spiritual thinking and to be able to create the world that we want and need, because it's no good creating, like, if I want something, because there again, the program, the system will tell you what you should even want. It will tell you you should want a Rolls Royce, you should want a mansion, and that's all very well. But if that Rolls Royce is artificial and technological and creates damage to your natural environment, which inhibits your spiritual growth, your mind function, your mind connection with other human beings, and your ability to create whatever you want with your thinking, then that item you would not create if you were a spiritual being, if you knew that it would damage your ability to do that. You see what I'm trying to say is that one thing would contradict the other. You would create something, maybe beautiful like that, but you wouldn't create it if it had fuel or something that would damage your body or your natural environment, because without the natural body and the natural environment, you cannot expand mentally. It's a bit like technology cannot expand unless you add to it. It's how technology keeps advancing, but we are not advancing. We're being pushed down. The opposite. And what I'm saying is that the natural world helps us to expand to where we would become aware that we had abilities. Whereas technology is expanding, and that makes us think we have no abilities. And unless we operate and actually know, we would know all this if we were operating at full capacity. We would actually know what was good for us. We wouldn't have to be told. We wouldn't have to go onto a computer and say, now, is this good for my body? We would know. And we would know that the computer was false information, false, not good for us. We would say, that would be the last source that I would go to for information, because I know in myself, because I'm a spiritual being, I know what is really right and what is really good. But that's all being taken from us because we don't believe that. We believe that we have to go the physical, scientific route, all that sort of stuff. And look, that there is some truth to all of this. So that's how we get to see it, because where there's a little bit of truth, you think it's all truth. Because if everything was 100% lies, we would see some cracks. But while you can throw in some truth with a lot of deception and a lot of lies, then we believe the whole thing. We believe the whole system. This is the deception. This is the unreality that we live in. We do not live in a real world. We do not live in what we think we live in. It's not a natural world, it's a technical world, it is not a real world. It is not the real world we should be creating. And the trouble is that because of the fact that we are spiritual beings and create physical reality with our thinking, and we're all connected, but we don't know it. So we could create together anything we wanted. And we would naturally, because we're spiritual beings, create what was beneficial to us. But this has been denied to us. So we operate in the physical, artificial, technically controlled world that feeds us the opposite to that, and that feeds every human being, whether they're average like myself at best and extra smart. It doesn't matter, because they're all still part of that. And there's always deception, even for the ones who are controlling us much more. They are also operating under a certain amount of deception. It's one big mind control. And what I'm trying to say is that if you give your mind over to anything else and you don't even know you're doing it, and you don't know that your thinking is being manipulated, because you don't think that's possible. But what I'm trying to say is the technology behind the scenes is much vaster than what we see. But even what we see, we should be now starting to wake up. This was a period of time, and I've heard this said on different YouTube videos, this was supposed to be a time of awakening. There evidently, this is what I've been led to believe, there have been periods in history where human beings have had a chance to wake up, where there was supposed to be more awareness coming to them. And this is a period of time where human beings were supposed to be waking up in massive amounts. But because this was supposed to happen, that means that the technological system that runs everything knows this, because they know what is going on. They know what humans are thinking. They know if they are starting to see things, then they will bring that system down on us even more, as they have done with me. And as but I think once you start to see a few things and you get past a point, it's almost impossible to close off the full awareness, or at least not full awareness, but at least some of the awareness, you see. So even myself, even though I've got the system crashing down on me, to close off the awareness, it's not entirely possible, because I've already just gone a little bit past that point. Most human beings are getting closed down on before they can get to that little point where they start to see a few more points. They can still see some things that they know are not right, but they think that's just coincidence and random. And also because because I have just come into that realization that human beings are more special than what they think, and more powerful than what they think. Because I sort of say, hey, if I've got a group of cattle, say, because we are like cattle if we are in this control system, right? If I've got a group of cattle, right, and I know those cattle are cattle and they're less than me, in other words, I think that they are less intelligent than me, say, I'm not really going to worry too much. I'm going to control them, but I'm not going to worry too much about controlling them overly, because I know I can, because they've got less abilities than me at certain levels, right? And by the way, I'm not denigrating animals, because I believe every animal has some abilities that are better than us, because we're the ones that are downgraded. A bird can fly, I can't fly. A fish can swim underwater, I can't. So, so don't get me wrong there. I think most animals are less downgraded than us, even though they are killed off also in the massive amounts and most made extinct. And this is all us, but this is because we are controlled by the system. This is not us as we naturally are. We would not naturally do any of these things. But at any rate, that doesn't matter. I'm going to go further and say, well, look, if you've got those cattle under control and you know that they are already limited, you're not going to worry. But this control system that runs the earth knows that humans are better than the system and better than them in some ways, because they're creating the reality. They know all this. So they have to come down much heavier. They can't just let us be natural, because if we were less like you think you are, and I thought I was, and we all think we are, that we're not spiritual beings, that we don't create reality with our thinking, and that we're not all connected. If this was not true, why would they need to control us so much? You know, if we were just little human beings like we think, and we're just randomly on the planet, we don't really know much, we're not overly smart, the technology's better, why would they need to come down on? This is what occurred to me. This is how I saw it. This is how I woke up, because I'm like, hey, I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I do not influence anything. I do not have any say in this world. I'm right down the bottom. And this is a fact. And someone's like, why is the system coming down on me? Why? Why? And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, why me? It couldn't be possible, because I'm even isolated. I don't know anyone. I don't do anything. And that is because if you start to wake up a little bit, your thinking creates reality, and you're all connected, so it can go to another human being. We could all wake up. We could all see the truth. It's all about just seeing the truth, really. The truth will set you free. That these sound bites, as people now have been conditioned to say, even good sayings are thrown back at us because there's more wisdom in them. And they don't want you to have wisdom. They want you to be in the practical, slave-driven world where they have full control and where you are limited and brought down to nothing. This is what is the truth. And, you know, it grieves me to say it, and I feel that I'm totally trapped and don't know what to do and don't know how to get myself and others out of it. And that also is part of it too, because if you're a spiritual being, you shouldn't feel that way, really. You shouldn't feel, but I feel trapped by the physicality because I have been conditioned and controlled by it all my life. And to realise the truth now that also it's gone so far, and also now that the system, if it comes down on you and targets you because you perhaps even know a little bit, because the thing is they don't, you're only allowed to put information out there if they let you. Now you could say, well, I'm making the video, so I'm free, so what am I complaining about? I'm expressing myself. Well, that I can't answer that, only to say that I would, if I look around the world, I do see some truth there, right, with some people. But they're not changing anything, are they? Because the truth has to be put there, because there's certain rules, I think, to this system that we live in. Like, you've come here and not only have you agreed to play in this control system in a way, but the powers that control it still have to abide by some rules. And I'm not going to go into that, but the free will thing does seem to come in quite a bit. And the free will also implies human beings have free will. That's the only thing they have got left, but that is taken from them, because if they believe in technology, then where is their free will? So in other words, they might think they're free, but if they're choosing technology and the technology takes them over, they're not really operating in free will. But at a technical level, at a superficial clinical level, shall we say, if you had to ask a human being, look, if, like, in other words, if God itself sort of said, hey, you're violating those humans' rights, then the technical being that controls it would say to the God, no, I'm not, because look, they didn't have to take the technology, you know, they took it. And that's where the trick is, because we innocently take things and don't know how they really operate or who's operating them, you know. But from an outside point of view, we've still accepted that, because as spiritual beings, we should actually know that technology is alien for us. The technology is not compatible with the human body, with the human mind, with human anything. But that's been deprived us, so we now think it is compatible. Even though, there again, at a scientific level, if you really looked into it, you would know, even at our limited scientific level, you would know that it's actually not. But instead you say, oh no, a certain person said, oh, it's okay, it's good. And you believe it, but you don't go much further, you don't dig. And you don't even use common sense to where you say, hey, you know, why do I feel a bit funny these days? You know, why don't I think as clearly? Why do I have to go to my computer for every single thing? Sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing unless I ask the computer, you know. So that's the thing. And I think I'm exhausted actually saying it all. I would have a lot more to say, and I was on a bit of a roll, but I also got mind intercepted just then, because there's always distractions. Our mind is not functioning at full capacity. You know, I would say that I'm using 1% of my actual full capacity right now. And even that is given me just a slight bit more awareness than some other people. So it's, to me, it's tragic. I could just lay down and literally cry and die from it, just from realizing that, because it's like, it's so, to me, it's so unbelievable. And that's the trouble. It is too unbelievable for most people, because we're being conditioned to think so much in this physical world that we believe in. We think it's right, we think it's true, and we don't question it at all. We're not questioning much these days. If we do have a question, we go to the source, and the source is the technology, which is the devil, you could say. So it's kind of like we even go to for our truth, we are going to the devil, a bit like the Garden of Eden. Yes, that's right. I will show you the tree of life. I will show you good and evil. Humans were not meant to see good and evil, no. Because the spiritual beings, they had no interest in evil. Because I think our spiritual beings, they knew that they should have known that only good would benefit them. They automatically would know everything. They would know what was good and bad. They wouldn't have to, and they were innocent. They were already kind of in good. Seeing too much good and bad is the duality of technology. You're not supposed to be always in that conflict of, oh, this is good or this is bad, because that creates separation for the human beings, because then you are pitted against another human being. And that is wrong, because you're spiritual beings in a physical body, all connected, and your thought creates reality. So how can you create a good reality if you're separate from another human being and in opposition to that human being? You're automatically going to create a negative reality in a bad world, and you're going to let the technology take you over and create technologically inferior, destructive mechanisms that control you and ruin your natural world and your natural ability to interact with that which benefits you, whereas the technology controls and downgrades and doesn't benefit you and makes you less, not more. That's how it is. That's the truth. The truth is the truth. The truth will set you free because it has to. Education won't set you free. Information won't set you free. Only the truth. But you have to find the truth. You have to know what is the basic truth. Everything is simple at a basic level once you see it and know it. Then everything else becomes crystal clear. And if I can see it, and I'm one of the least intellectual, least interested human beings on anything that was going on, never thought a single thing about what would have took place outside this very limited room. And that's how they like you to be. They like you to be like I was, in a room, watching your TV, playing on your computer, stuck on your mobile phone. Well, that's a newer thing, where you're stuck on that. Even it was meant to be where you just communicated like a telephone. Instead, they've got you looking at it from the minute you go outside your door. This is limiting. This is limiting. You're spending all your time looking at a box, a screen, you see. And that's how I was, to where they want to keep you in your room, not in the real big natural world, to where you can expand your mind and expand yourself and become aware of the truth, the true reality, not this false reality, this technical reality that we're conditioned to live in and forced to live in. I mean, I can't get out of this material prison, the same as you, because it has become a necessity to live that way, because you have no power to exercise your own natural right, to even you do not even have control over the natural ability you have to create with your thinking, and you don't know you have that. How can you use something if you don't know you have it? You see? How can you be connected to other human beings when you think you have to be technologically connected? And you don't know that all along you were mentally connected. That was taken from you many, many, many years ago, that information, that truth. Yes, you could say a Garden of Eden scenario where, that's right, man was the downfall of man, and it was the downfall of humanity. Now, I'm not going into a religious aspect. I'm just saying that's an historical kind of fact. It doesn't have to be a religious thing at all. In fact, there again, even religion has a lot of truth in it, because they have to let you have the truth. But they twist it around to where you get confused. So it's no good knowing bits of truth if they don't fit the right picture. It's no good having a piece of the puzzle. You need to have all the pieces to get the full picture. They give you a piece of the puzzle, but a piece on its own is deceptive. It doesn't give you anything. It gives you information and it's truth. That piece is the true piece. But you want the whole puzzle. You want all the pieces. You're never given all the pieces. And if you are given them, they're always not to where you can put them together. That's how it just come to me to say that. Even I have some moments where I get something good to, what I think is a bit clever to say. But the thing is, that's my point. So that's how it works, because I see that now, because now I start to look at everything and it just comes to me because I'm a bit clearer. Whereas before, so many things that I would have even seen, I would have still seen them, but I would have dismissed them and I wouldn't have put them together. That's the only difference, because humans still see things, even now, even though they're technologically controlled. I mean, it's hard to defeat an enemy that knows your every thinking. And if you don't believe that enemy exists and that there isn't mind control and that the system doesn't know everything you're thinking, think again. Even if the technology behind the scenes didn't exist, right? It has to, because we're always, at least, even in this so-called real world, you have to say, hey, that's right, we cloned Dolly the sheep many, many, many years ago. Surely, you know, behind the scenes, there's been much more progress made. I mean, to me, that just seems like common sense. You know, call me stupid, but isn't that common sense? You know, and yet we can't do, we appear to be making slow progress in this real world. No, but even that, even if you buy into that, and I think that would, a lot of people would accept that. I'm saying that there's even more technology probably, that this system is much more controlled. But even if you take it at what we actually know, if you really thought about it, you know, we are at a great disadvantage. Once again, a mind thing. I'm saying that, yeah, it's come to me now. See, my mind gets taken over too, like everyone else's. I'm distracted. I'm not able to. But anyway, what I am saying is this, right? There is mind control. Now, the mind control is real. You know it's real, because even at the limited knowledge you have now, think about it. You use your computer, you give your thoughts over to it. Everything you're bringing into your home is invading your privacy. So they know what you're doing, what you're thinking, what is. Even when you go onto the computer and the eBay to buy things these days, think about it. Notice how they suggest what you should buy. They already know what you're thinking. Now you say that's technological, and it is. But what I'm saying is, you've already accepted that it's okay for a mechanical device to tell you and suggest to you what you should buy. You think that's good. You say, oh, that saves me time. And it does. But you see my point.